Ubisoft is proving more and more dumb because they turned their single player game that was supposed to be like Splinter Cell into what became eventually Xdefiant, a multiplayer live service game that was shut down pretty quickly, not as fast as something like Concord, but really fast. And we're going to be talking about that and a few more other things as well. My name is Detective Jelly. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button if you enjoy these types of videos. I do these Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so please let's enjoy this and let's get right into the video. Former Ubisoft devs talked to a bunch of news outlets, preferably Bloomberg and Games Radar, about how the development of Xdefiant was really weird and very strange going into it because the majority of the team were making a single player Splinter Cell like game, a narrative based game where they could do cool things. And more and more into the development to turn that the publisher Ubisoft really just wanted to make a Call of Duty game that wanted to chase the success of Call of Duty, which is really weird when you think about it because overall Ubisoft isn't really known for that, and most of the developers also agreed because they eventually left, and Xdefiant unfortunately was just left to go into its own thing where it's being a multiplayer live service game. And to be fair, I played it and I enjoyed it. It was a fun game, but the problem is that one, you have to deal with Ubisoft's big terrible mess up, it being called Uplay or Ubisoft Connect or whatever it's called now. And overall, it just felt like a really game that was from 10 years behind, it feels like, because it was chasing Call of Duty when Call of Duty hasn't really been as big as it used to be. Like, you're chasing Call of Duty in 2024 when like Fortnite and Battle Royale were still really popping off. And it feels like really strange that that's what they were chasing. And I feel really bad for anyone who enjoys Splinter Cell because Splinter Cell hasn't had a new game in a very long time. And it feels like they're kind of primed for a new game because the stealth action game that Splinter Cell was doesn't really have any competition. Like, basically, it's only Metal Gear Solid, really. And that game hasn't actually had a new one in its series for a long time. It's just been doing remakes and slightly different stuff because Konami is a whole other mess. So it feels like they're actually kind of like in their own world. I guess the Hitman games also would also count as well. And they're doing relatively fine, but they're also owned by Square Enix, so who knows what's going to happen because they can sell a game can sell for like 6 million copies for them and it'd be a financial failure. So I don't know how that works. So it really does feel like they should have actually just made a single player Splinter Cell game, especially with the hindsight of how terrible Xdefiant actually was and how hard it fell off right away, basically, because it lasted maybe a year. Realistically, like, it technically what didn't go offline for over a year, but like the player base basically left after the first like half a year. Basically, the first 6 months, they were basically gone. And even though it did turn into all those developers leaving and turning into different studios to make things like Dispatch recently, it really does suck that the people that love Splinter Cell constantly, after the fact, realize that Ubisoft starts so many projects as Splinter Cell games and just doesn't, it just fails. Because if I remember correctly, like the Division started as a Splinter Cell project really early on, and then it became its own thing. Now, to be fair, the Division was a good game, and the Division, like, it's a decent game, so that's at least fine. But like, Splinter Cell feels like it's such like the black sheep of all the Ubisoft game titles because Ubisoft seemingly just wants to ignore it, and everyone, all the developers that go to Ubisoft are like, dude, let's make a cool Splinter Cell game. And Ubisoft, for some reason, keeps telling them no. And I don't know why, because once again, they're basically in their own genre. Like, Hitman is basically the only modern game that is kind of like that. And Splinter Cell, I feel like, would be more of a Metal Gear Solid or Deus Ex style game where it's stealth action. Maybe not Deus Ex because that's more immersive sim, but like that style of game. But it really doesn't seem that Ubisoft cares. And it's weird because it's not like Ubisoft is doing that well. They're really just putting all their eggs in the Assassin's Creed Far Cry basket, it seems like, and they really just don't care about anything else. But also they keep games like Skull and Bones alive for so long. but not something like Xdefiant or Splinter Cell. It's so strange. I don't understand their thought process, and it's probably because they're in the middle of trying to get bought, like we discussed before in a couple other videos, because of the weirdness of stocks that they had with Ubisoft and people being in talks with Tencent and everything like that. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's what they're just doing. They're just getting ready to be bought, and now they're just trying to play it safe to try to make it look like they're doing well so they could be bought. So it feels really bad to be a Splinter Cell fan. I feel sorry for them because Ubisoft constantly just keeps slam dunking them over and over and over again. Hopefully it gets better soon, though, at some point. Moving on to the game I talked about a little bit earlier, Dispatch. Dispatch, first of all, has hit crazy sales goals. They sold 2 million overall and 1 million within the first 3 months, which is a crazy good thing to see. And it being a story-based game, and it's episodic too as well, which is really cool in the old school Telltale style game. It's really cool to see, and all of it being narrative driven, animated style. It's really an old school game in a modern day frame, which is really cool to see. I keep saying that because it's just really cool to see. And the developers have gone on to say that AI isn't for creative people. And it's just such a huge, funny thing for them to say because their game is really big on decision making and stuff like that. And there's a bunch of people who are saying, oh, this game would have been so much better if they could make it so much faster because they could have used AI and stuff like that. And basically, the developer says AI is for people that aren't creative. Like, it's the creative outlet for people who aren't creative, which is really funny to say. And also, their studio is backed by like Critical Role and stuff like that. So it's not that they're like really that hurt on cash. They've been pretty good for money, and the fact that they're already a financial success. I do have some worries about the game maybe being forced into a sequel because I don't know. Personally, I haven't played the game and I haven't really watched it because I do want to play the game, so I don't want to spoil myself. So I don't know how the game ends, but they're talking about like making another game, and I really hope that doesn't make it so people's choices don't matter. That's the problem with making sequels to games like this because you want people's choices to matter. So it's going to be weird. And I do feel like their quote of just having no AI at all basically is really good, and it's nice to see a game that is just saying no, we're not going to do that. Because a lot of people are worried about stuff like that, and it's kind of understandable. There are a lot of unfortunate stories about studios kind of embracing AI when they probably shouldn't, like the new Call of Duty game that has AI in its banners and stuff like that, where they definitely can afford artists. So it feels like a really big win, even though they are still an indie studio. Like, these guys aren't AAA, don't get me wrong. I'm sure they've made enough money, and they're not going to go bankrupt anytime soon. But it feels like at least this is a small win for everyone involved because AI is really bad for video games, in my opinion. And having more and more developers themselves just say no, AI is not good. I feel like their quote, AI feels like a pro production solution, not a creative one. Maybe it's a creative one if you aren't creative. It's such a good quote. Even though I completely butchered it, it's still an amazing quote, and I feel like I'll be saying that for a lot of times. It is a production solution. I agree with them. AI is really good for productivity and for managing things, but it's not creative. It's only creative if you yourself aren't that creative because you can't figure out how to do it. And like, even speaking from personal experience, I'm not a really good artist. I'm not good at art, but I don't claim to be creative in art. I say I can explain something of what I want to be drawn sometimes, but am I going to be able to draw it? I mean, probably not. But I don't pretend that I'm an artist, Like, it's these people that are trying to pretend they're artists or something like that, which I don't even know why. It's not like as an artist you make tons of money. I don't know why a lot of these business guys are going after this because there's not a lot of like money in this. Sure, you can make a decent living being an artist and being a creative person, but like, not the money that they want. I feel like it's just a huge misrepresentation of what they want and what they see the video game world as, because they just see the video game world as artists and creative lines and developers and coders, and they just think that AI can do it, and it's just not right, and it feels weird. It feels really weird, and I don't get it. Because you would never get a game like Dispatch with any use of AI. It would be so much worse in so many ways. So I'm glad at least these developers have really big stomp on the ground. We're not budging for this one. And I'm glad that they're like being in the world of AI is interesting, but it's not being used for the right stuff. And I'm because that's wholeheartedly what I believe in. So I hope that it eventually goes that way. Lastly, Krafton is in lawsuits right now with Subnautica 2, personally. And even after the CEO of Krafton denied consulting with ChatGPT, speaking of AI, it turns out he 100% consulted with ChatGPT on the Subnautica 2 mess in the lawsuit. Because if you didn't know, Subnautica 2 right now, developers, Unknown Worlds, are, or the former developers, are suing Krafton because of a payment disagreement and an earnout agreement, basically. And allegedly, Krafton CEO Chang Jing Kim asked ChatGPT to help him figure out how to avoid paying the Subnautica 2 earnout, which the developers claimed that they should be owed. And he denied this, but then in court, obviously, you need to be truthful in court, and everything said through a translator on PC Gamer. He basically admitted to yes, he did use ChatGPT, saying using the excuse, the classic excuse, in my opinion, of saying it was like a Google search when everyone knows ChatGPT is not a Google search because ChatGPT, first of all, just lies and isn't a search engine. It's not a search engine at all, like Google. Now, to be fair, Google can obviously lie to you. I'm not saying Google is always right, but it's a fundamentally different product. There is no search engine in ChatGPT. It is a chatbot. Like, it doesn't search anything. I mean, it technically looks at other things and can know some stuff, but it does make stuff up all the time, which is also does kind of make sense because Kim, the CEO of Krafton, was always saying that they're an AI first company now and they're going to be pushing the technology limit of AI. But if he thinks ChatGPT is a search engine, then his fundamental understanding of AI is so misleading and just wrong that I don't want someone that has an AI first strategy that doesn't understand AI. And I feel like this is him getting caught in a lie or him trying to sound better in court because it's a really bad look if he admits that he was looking for ways to try to not pay them and he just asked AI to see if they could come up with a solution. So I feel like this is him trying to do a little white lying and trying to make it sound better in testimony because of this lawsuit that the former Subnautica 2 devs are doing, because it just looks bad in every single way. And it's also kind of funny to think that the CEO of Krafton asked ChatGPT how to not pay the Subnautica 2 devs. Like, it's funny in a terrible way, especially after all the comments about being a AI first company, and then him saying, "Oh, it's just like Google search," even though it's very obvious that it's not. So it's interesting to see that. I'm also very curious how this lawsuit is actually going. It is cross examination, so I don't think they're in formal court right now. Actually, no, cross examination is during court, so they're in court right now, but it is in Korean court, if I remember correctly, which is why we're getting translations from PC Gamer. So it's interesting to see how this court case is going to be going. I'm going to be keeping an eye on it because who knows what's going to happen in this thing. But overall, I just can't believe the fact that people are still using ChatGPT as a Google search engine. And I feel sad because I know it's more of a common thing, but the thing literally lies to you. Like, it doesn't replace research. It's like using Wikipedia as your main source. You shouldn't. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't start there, but like it's so weird to see it because even though I just said that, I do feel like Wikipedia is actually a good source of information a lot of the time, but ChatGPT isn't because it literally just lies to you. And there's really hard ways to figure it out because you have to do your own research to know that ChatGPT is lying to you, which feels like it's the complete opposite of what people are trying to do because people are trying to make it so, or he's trying to say that ChatGPT is just a search engine so you can do your own research. But you need to research the stuff that ChatGPT is telling you because it could just lie to you. It could have a hallucination or whatever it's called that they use the term because it just makes stuff up sometimes. And this coming from the person who committed 70 million US dollars to be an AI first company to develop chips. is I'm not sure if that's a good or bad look, because he's at least using the technology, maybe not using it for correct reasons, because he's trying to figure out how to not pay developers when they've earned the pay or the bonus that they were trying to get. But at least he knows about it. Like, he's not like some suit and tie that literally knows nothing. But it does make it seem like he is at least ignorant of what there is actually trying to happen, or once again, just kind of trying to bend the truth. Because once again, he just doesn't want to pay the Subnautica 2 former Subnautica 2 devs. Like, that's the overlying thing. He just doesn't want to pay them because they were owed a bonus. So that's the reason why the whole thing started, is that they don't want to get paid. He doesn't want to pay them the extra money because it is a decent amount of money. So I just feel like it's it's a weird argument and a very strange thing to say from the person that wants to be an AI first company who seemingly doesn't understand AI and is willing to put $70 million on something that isn't really proven, but isn't willing to pay, like, I think a few $100,000 as a bonus to developers who are making a game for them to sell. So it makes no sense to me. But hey, that's the video game industry in a nutshell, at least. Thank you everyone for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. Please hit that subscribe button if you've enjoyed the video. We do these Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Hit the like button if you like it. Comment down below what you guys think about any of these 3 stories. Personally, I'm still really sad about Splinter Cell. I've always wanted to play a Splinter Cell game, but like, even there's no modern Splinter Cell game for me to play, I feel like. So it's strange. And it sucks for all of those fans of those games. The ones that remain, because it's been so long since the new one came out. If you'd like to support me directly, please go over to patreon.com/thetechnojelly. You get to join a once a month live stream that you can vote on, as well as some other perks. And you can join the credits as these people are going, all of these nice people are going across the screen. If you'd like to follow me on other platforms, I have a Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Threads. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.